You're right. I'm just cosplaying as the Squirrel King in Tearaway. My Squirrel King, not necessarily yours. Yeah, he's he's funny, right? Because like you can draw shit on shit, and this squirrel came up to me like, and he was like the king in that, and he has a kingdom, and he's like lost his crown and shit. So like I fucking drew him. I drew him a penis crown. Yeah. It's a penis. It's a funny.
At last, now a real story can begin.
I can barely remember my time spent playing the original Tearaway on the Vita. That's not to say it was by any means an unmemorable game, just that I was playing a great deal of GTA 5 alongside it. Being more of a reimagining of the original than a sequel or a prequel, I treated Unfolded as though it were my first time experiencing the game, and for the most part it worked. There's enough that's been changed or added in here to make it feel like a fresh experience, and one that stands shoulder to shoulder with its predecessor. An obvious selling point when it came to the original was just how well some of the Vita's seemingly pointless gimmicks were implemented. Where most first-party games for the system integrated the touch and camera functionality just to offer a slightly different but totally negligible control scheme, Tearaway made use of them in a totally original way. The game was built around these functions. Media Molecule are a wonderfully creative studio, and were able to blend the many weird hardware features of the Vita with some wonderfully imaginative mechanics. Does this awesomeness translate over to the DualShock 4 then? Kind of, yes. The DualShock has its own set of gimmicky design choices too, and Unfolded does a good enough job of taking advantage of these. The touchpad is utilised often, sometimes just as another button, sometimes to change the direction of the wind, and sometimes to actually design things for the world itself. Like a penis crown. For the Squirrel King. The gyroscopic stuff inside the controller is made use of too. Pressing either the R2 or L2 shines a light shaped like the light bar into the game, which is controlled by moving the DualShock around. This is a mechanic that you need to utilise quite often, as it guides certain characters and manipulates the environment. Tearaway is essentially just a 3D platformer after all, and does not require a complex combination of button presses at any given time. Nothing ever feels too awkward. You can also dust off your PlayStation camera too. Though I don't own one, I imagine it works in the same way it did on the Vita, pasting your face on certain parts of the environment and so on. I used the companion app, which worked well when I decided to use it. Drawing your own objects is certainly much easier on a bigger, more responsive touchscreen, but whilst taking pictures to send into the game is cool, they're not persistent and won't stay there for more than 5 minutes at a time. It's intended more as a second player type thing than anything else, as they can flick through your phone's gallery and choose images at random to display in the game. Forget all this though, is Tearaway actually any good as a game? Well, yeah, it really is. Whilst I can totally appreciate what Media Molecule did with Little Big Planet, I never really took to it. In Tearaway, however, the creative elements are more simplified and can be ignored the majority of the time, though I don't know quite why you would do that. Essential mechanics are drip-fed to you. As you progress, you always push forward to see what element of control you'll be handed next, and how that might change the way you play. There's very little dialogue throughout the game, as the majority of the characters speak in a morph-like style of nonsensical beeps and bops. But the two main narrators who accompany you on your journey are voiced with an incredible amount of quirky character and gusto. However, none of this compares to just how staggeringly beautiful the art direction is. It was still very much the case on the Vita, but in full HD this thing really shines. The aesthetical idea of a papercraft world is appealing in and of itself, and the broad spectrum of colour used here is never anything less than astoundingly beautiful, encouraging you to explore every nook and cranny of its many levels. This incredible aesthetic is married to a soundtrack that's equally substantial in varying tonal shifts. From some of the most pleasing acoustical jingles ever to grace a game, to eccentric melodies with wacky samples laid over the top, Tearaway has it all. I love it. Every aspect of it, and it's such a shame that it's bombed in the charts. It's a testament to the artistic merits of this wonderful medium that I can go from a game like The Phantom Pain to Tearaway and still take great things away from both. Plus, fucking papercraft penis-shaped crown for a Squirrel King. You cannot ask for more creative freedom than that.